Senator Vance,
Sounds good.
thanks for making time.
Of course.
Let's talk about trade. The union says Harley-Davidson's recent announcement to ship work and jobs to Thailand is, quote, a kick in the teeth to American workers and a betrayal to the company's legacy as an American icon. The company says this will not impact employment at U.S. facilities. So my question for you is, what trade policies would assure worried union workers that a Trump-Vance administration would keep manufacturing in America? And should those workers be concerned about Trump's call for higher tariffs?
Well, no, I don't think so at all, actually. I think tariffs are one of the things that actually protect American manufacturing workers because, look, the Chinese are trying to make things in East Asia. They're using effectively slaves to make them. American workers shouldn't be expected to compete with slaves. They should be expected to compete with other workers, and on a fair playing field, they're going to win. That's what tariffs do, actually. Tariffs level the playing field with some of these abusive trade practices from East Asia and so forth. So you put tariffs on these goods, and you also drive down the cost of American energy. You're going to be able to manufacture more things, which protects the jobs of American workers, union and non-union alike.
But union workers saw this, or Harley-Davidson says it saw this impact in Trump's first term. They said had to move production overseas because of the tariffs and retaliatory tariffs.
Well, I think that you have to be willing to actually lean into this and fight back against those retaliatory tariffs if you have to. Look, these companies are very often using foreign labor to undercut the wages of American workers. You've got to have a president who pushes back against that. If you compare President Trump's record, the 16 years before he was president, 60,000 factories closed down. The 4 years he was president, 12,000 factories opened up in the United States of America. We know the formula here. It's to fight back against abusive trade practices from overseas countries. It's to lower the cost of American energy. Unfortunately, we're running against somebody, Kamala Harris, who wants to raise the cost of American energy and actually surrender to the communist Chinese and other people who are trying to take advantage of our workers. We have the exact opposite approach, which is why President Trump delivered so many good manufacturing jobs when he was president.
Let's talk about health care costs. The Biden administration celebrated this week big savings for seniors on Medicare with lower government negotiated prices on 10 prescription drugs. Is this a big win for seniors concerned about health care costs? And what can they expect from your administration for either the same or better benefits?
Yeah, so if you look at prescription drug costs overall, they've gone up. There have been some wins in the Medicare market, but largely Americans across the board, including our seniors, are paying way more for prescription drugs. And I think what you have to do is you just have to empower whether it's government or insurers, whoever's covering people, you've got to empower them to actually negotiate for lower drug prices. You also have to take foreign countries. They take advantage of America's drug market. We have American companies that are selling drugs way cheaper in Europe than they are in the United States of America. So sometimes that means we're going to have to re-import stuff from Europe. If European consumers are paying less, then American consumers should pay less too. Again, I want to go back to President Trump's record on this because remember, all of the policies, for example, that drove the cost of insulin to $35 a unit are policies that he actually enacted during his term, and now consumers are starting to see the benefits. Some of this stuff takes a long time, but President Trump's leadership did more to drive down costs than any president in my lifetime.
The Justice Department this year launched a new effort to help states implement red flag laws, which are intended to keep guns out of the hands of people who pose a threat. Wisconsin does not have a red flag law. Is it possible to have a common sense conversation, debate around this issue that will benefit everyone and reduce crime?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is, actually. And here's, red flag laws mean different things to different people. I think we have to be clear about something, that we don't want to take rights away from anybody, whether they're gun rights or First Amendment rights, without due process. So if you're going to say, for example, a violent criminal, right, a violent felon, I think pretty much everybody agrees you want to keep guns out of the hands of violent felons, but only after they've had a fair court process under law. You don't want to take people's gun rights away without any court process, and I think that's where President Trump and I are, protecting law-abiding gun owners from having their rights taken away, while at the same time promoting public safety. And this is an important point because if you look at the reason why we have increased murders, increased homicides over the last few years, it's because we don't lock up enough violent criminals. The gross majority of violent crime is committed by a very, very small number of people. You've got to empower our state governments, our police, right? We're here in a police center to actually lock up the bad guys and keep them locked away. That'll do more to end violent crime than taking guns away from law-abiding citizens.
The Harris team announcing their economic plan today, and they are talking about lowering costs for homes. As you know, higher interest rates have made home ownership really difficult for millions of families. She's talking about potentially $25,000 in a down payment for some families. Is that a workable solution? What is the solution?
Well, first of all, we have to remember Kamala Harris is promising that she's going to do a lot of things on day one, but day one was 3.5 years ago for Kamala Harris. She's been vice president and effectively leading the country, and she should have been doing these things 3.5 years ago, not making a bunch of promises now. You have to ask yourself, why are American homes so unaffordable right now? Well, first of all, Kamala Harris let in 20 million illegal aliens to compete with Americans for scarce homes, and second of all, she cast multiple votes, tie-breaking votes, that raised interest rates, which of course makes mortgages totally unaffordable for American families. We want to bring those mortgage interest rates down, we want to build more houses, and we want to kick out the illegal aliens who are competing with Americans for homes. That will do more to reduce the cost of homes than anything. Now, this proposal, this $25,000 proposal, I want to say one thing about it, because you sort of just read about it in a newspaper, you might think it sounds reasonable. Here's the problem with the proposal. A lot of that $25,000 is going to go to illegal aliens. If you don't secure the border and you're giving $25,000 checks to everybody who wants to buy a home, then a lot of illegal aliens are going to benefit from that. That means a lot of Americans priced out of the home market yet again.
I know they want me to wrap, but
Go ahead.
standing next to this wall of honor of fallen officers in Milwaukee. When you see the names and faces of all those men and women, what does that mean to you?
Well, what it means to me is that these guys gave their lives for a sacred trust, and for us to honor it, for the living to honor it, we've got to actually devote ourselves to what they gave their lives to, which is public safety, right? These guys, to have not died in vain, we have got to honor their sacrifice and enact policies that reduce the amount of violent crime and make it less likely that their brothers who are still living are going to follow them, right? No police officer wants to give their life. They're willing to do it in the interest of public safety. We ought to be backing our law enforcement officers, making it easier for them to bring public safety, and hopefully making it so that fewer of them are dying. We've had way too many police officers die over the last few years because we're pursuing policies that make their lives harder and make public safety harder to come by.
Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thanks, Nick. Good to see you.